Welcome to the San Diego Sabers radio podcast, a member of the Star Wars Commonwealth podcast network. San Diego Sabers is the premier lightsaber combat training group in the San Diego area. On this show, we get together and talk about saber fighting, combat techniques, and a lot of Star Wars geekery.
All right, we are here. Hello. First of all, drinks, because that's how we start now. Fantastic. Well, I am your host, Marina of San Diego Sabers. I am a Padawan, and we practice the 7 different forms of lightsaber combat in San Diego. And I'm about to interview one of my dear friends, Alan, from Phoenix Saber Academy. Hello, Alan.
Hi, how are you?
Doing quite well. So, tell us about yourself. Rank, school, give us the scoop.
Well, I am the president of the Saber Martial Arts Foundation. I am the founder of Phoenix Saber here in Phoenix, Arizona. If there is something to be done about lightsabers, whether it's Disney related or not, usually I know something about it. I'm part of a lot of the different groups out here in Arizona that are dealing with that whole lightsaber life. But the Saber Martial Arts Foundation is where I meet all sorts of wonderful people like yourselves, and we go all over the country, actually, hopefully holding events once all the pandemic is over. As far as my rank, I am, in real life, a 6th degree black belt in Kung Fu and a bunch of weapons. I've been doing martial arts since I was 8 years old, so going on 32 years now of martial arts. And I've also been very keen on learning different styles of combat, whether it be, ancient or modern. And this just happens to be part of my inner child, playing with lightsabers. Working with my outer child, working with martial arts, and then just actually, melding that together in order to create something a lot of fun, but yet still very skillful in the means of martial arts.
See, now you're making me look bad, because my acolytes include drinking, being on the I Have a Bad Feeling podcast, Padawan to the Battle Master, though, so I can count that as an acolyte. Or as an accomplishment. But as you said, we found each other through SMAF and through the fun that is lightsaber combat. So when I joined up with San Diego Sabers, we found Phoenix Saber Academy, and we became dear friends. And then Alan said, "Hey, you guys do a podcasty thing. That sounds fun." And I warned him that he would have to talk to me, and he would have to be interviewed by me. And somehow he still agreed. And here we are.
I mean, there are worse things, right?
Oh, just wait. I'm gonna attempt to be professional. But again, my claim to fame is I have a bad feeling. So go ahead and let that sink in. So
good. So what questions do you have?
Oh, I have a plenty. So I guess the first question, which we have to do it, superhero origin story. What made you get into martial arts? What was the thought in your brain that's like, yes, I want to do this?
Short stories, Jackie Chan. Long stories, my mom.
Oh, okay. Let's hear both.
So when I was growing up, I saw the very first Drunken Master movie and said, hey, I want to do that. I want to do all those things. Drink? Yeah, that too. I said all those things. So there was a part of me that wanted to do that so much so that I started trying to do it in our living room. Of course, I was around, I want to say 4 or 5. So, and my mom saw that and said, "You're going to kill yourself. Let me actually, get you involved in something professional so that you can do it correctly." My mom, she practiced Okinawan karate in Okinawa when my dad was stationed there. So she knew the difference between a professional martial arts studio and a McDojo, as we like to call it. And we lived in a town in Arizona called Yuma, and it is about 250 miles south of me right now. But it's basically a small Marine town, actually. So it is a military town, and there's only a couple of places to actually learn martial arts, and one of them just happened to be around the corner from where I lived. So I went there for a couple months. My mom immediately pulled me out. Basically started basically inundating me with professional martial arts, I guess, teachers, like documentaries and books and things like that. So I learned through osmosis at first until college, and then I decided to pay for it myself, and I've never left. So the whole martial arts thing, like, I started back as a white belt. So when I was 8 years old, I learned, all sorts of different martial arts from books and movies and, the training videos and stuff like that, but never with an actual teacher until college. So this is 10 years later. Then I finally, met somebody who told me, oh yeah, that's pretty good, but you're doing it wrong.
Oh,
so I had basically the university tell me that my small town education wasn't worth anything.
Oh no. So basically you had to relearn some things. Were there any bad habits that you got kind of stuck in?
Yeah. That is a great lesson that I learned. Most of the stuff that I saw and did was flashy and made you look cool, and not effective. When I actually started learning, like, the things that could actually work, or the quick counters to the ridiculous move that I tried to do, then I was like, okay, well, why would I ever do that? And then my teacher would nod their head and say, yes, that's exactly what I've been trying to tell you. So the whole idea of martial arts changed for me from when I was a child to when I was, learning as a young adult. And then now as a teacher, it's changed again. So, I mean, it's constantly evolving thing, which is the beauty of martial arts, I think.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm starting off very fresh, and I wanted to bring back a point that I thought was really interesting, was your mother. It's actually a pretty rare thing for someone to have that specific level of guidance when they go into a martial art. I know it's been an experience with a lot of people that they don't have that kind of a guidance. So sometimes they end up in a McDojo without even realizing it. And
now, just as a point, McDojos aren't bad. Those are actually good people trying to do good things. They just are trying to keep their business afloat. And we call it a McDojo because it's like they're just cranking out black belts without good quality, right? So you and I can make a better burger than McDonald's. We just go there because it's convenient.
Okay.
So that's why we call it a McDojo. It's not that it's bad, but it's just not the best.
Well, how much would you charge for me to become a knight in your school then? Just out of curiosity.
So in our school, we actually teach traditional martial arts. So you start from, very beginning and then you can go as far as you want. And generally speaking, most in the martial arts industry right now, most professional martial arts schools will charge anywhere from $100 to $200 a month per person to do that. Now, whatever they're teaching you, that varies. And how long it takes to get to their black belt, that also varies. So in this particular case, if you were to go from, let's say, white belt to black belt, or from Padawan to knight, usually it'll take 3 years, 36 months and that's like twice a week. Don't miss a week. You're there all the time, and you're doing 1 to 2 hour classes, right? So that's dedication. Now, the idea is, I'm going to give you a parable, I guess. When water flows over a rock for 36 months, there will always be a groove. So if you do something for that long, for 36 months, then what is that, 1,000 days? Something like that?
Around there.
Then it'll always be with you. That's the idea. And that's really what most black belts are. In the martial arts industry, it's usually 24 to 36 months to get a black belt, whether it's Tai Chi, whether it's Taekwondo or whatever. It's usually about that 3-year mark. But it's whatever time you have. I have a student right now that went through his first graduation, and he's been with us for 3 years. And he just went through and he was like, oh, yeah, I don't know why that took me so long. It's like, well, you never showed up to class. So how long it takes is up to you. I mean, he's been paying his tuition. Love the guy, but he didn't show up to class. I showed up, but he didn't. It's one of those catch-22s. And we've asked him several times, hey, are you sure you still want to pay this? Because you haven't shown up.
Yeah.
And he's like, yes. It's driving me. It's the energetic exchange that's driving me to actually want to come back every time I see that bill.
Yeah.
I'm like,
No,
okay,
I feel you on that one. And I think it also has to do, I mean, from my own personal experience, don't mind the cars. Sorry, they happen every once in a while. But I think another difficult part too is experience. And
yes.
Sometimes it takes people longer, even if they try really, 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 really hard and they show up to every single practice and they work their butt offs and they train their butt offs. Like sometimes it takes a little bit longer. So yeah, I'm just throwing that out there because you're like, oh, 3 years. And I was sitting here, I'm like, okay, so I work really hard.
Well, part of it too is everybody's body is a different story, right? So one of my students came to me literally broken. He was the crooked man is what he called himself. So if you were to stand up straight, and reach with your right hand to your right knee, that's how he stood up straight.
Oh.
So he had all sorts of things wrong.
Yeah.
Right? Before he left, and it took about 3 years, he could sit up straight again. For the first time, he said he could touch his left knee, with his left hand. He could turn around. He could do all sorts of stuff. And again, it took about 3 years to do that every day. But your victory is based on what you mark as a victory, not necessarily somebody else's does. So if your victory is to be able to do a triple flying kick, land in the splits, good on you. For some people to be able to stand up straight.
Yeah.
It's for some people to be able to remember, oh yeah, this is the 10th move. Great. But that's why we celebrate little bit victories in lieu of everything, right? So the belt system evolved from that, from reminding people that no, this is hard, because there used to only be like a white belt and a black belt, and that was it. And you were either a student or you graduated. So eventually people realized, our students are leaving before they reach anywhere. So they're like, okay, well, let's celebrate in between then. So the traditional story is that you'd be handed your white belt, and through the sweat, blood, and tears and dirt that you trained in, it gradually gets all dirty and black, right? But that's not very hygienic these days. So yeah, so that's where the Koreans, in their wisdom, decided to do a color system. So they colored each belt, and then the Japanese and the Chinese did different sashes and things of that nature. So when I first came up, it was kind of a cross between all of them. So our white belt actually got the old shoe polish treatment. Nice. So we take a section of it and make it black until eventually your whole belt was black.
Oh, okay. That's kind of cool.
Each section of your belt was going to be black. And then that became unruly once we had like so many students, because now like we have to hang the belts up, and it looks like a laundry mat now. Yeah. And so we're like, we're just going to go to color. So we decided to go to colored belts because of that. So, and that's kind of it's a changing of the times, right? So in martial arts, we talk about adapting to your opponent. Sometimes you have to adapt with the times.
Well, that's pretty cool. So in that level of adaptation, what was the first martial art that you ever practiced? Because that actually plays a really interesting part in not only to who you are and what interests you, but how your beginning has shaped sort of where you are now.
Oh, I trained in Not in the Face.
Not in the Face. Okay. Killer.
So no, my mom, again, love her, hate her, however you want to see her. She's a huge driving force in how I view the world. And so she learned Okinawan karate, and she basically would point things out. So, but never really trained me, if that makes sense. She trained me mentally, but not physically. And then basically the very first martial art that I officially was taught was Taekwondo.
Okay.
So that was my first official martial art that I paid for. And then when I got out of that school and went into another one, I started learning Kung Fu. So, and that has so many different flavors in it. So Taekwondo is Korean. It is the foot fist way. It is very strict, rigid. Came from like a military, idea of do this. This is the rank structure. Here's everything. And then Kung Fu was like, all right, so what are you into?
Yeah.
So for me, it was kind of cool because I was into everything. And I liked the fact that I could kind of adapt and change different styles based on the things that I was taught. So my first degree black belt was a test of 10 different martial arts. So I had to know 10 different styles and forms and be able to do them back to back to back to back. And then also we had a minimum of 2 weapons that we had to do. This is when I got my black belt. Nowadays, much relaxed, much more relaxed. But yeah, there's 5 Animal Fist Kung Fu is the main one. Everybody knows it and can recognize it. It's the old Jackie Chan tiger style, snake style, crane style, leopard style, dragon style. So you see all that, you're like, oh, cool. I know that. I've seen that in movies. Great. I'm a freaking Kung Fu superhero. Awesome. And that usually gets kids in the door. Mm-hmm. The other style that we do is called Shaolin Long Fist. So northern style of China. So you have a southern style, which is basically a bunch of short, stocky people that eat a bunch of rice, live on boats in marshland, on uneven ground, trying to emulate nature and the animals around them. And in northern style, long, lanky people that eat a bunch of wheat and climb mountains and stuff. So their movements are distinctly different. So most people in our school get their second degree in Long Fist if they start there. And Long Fist is going to be everything you see like a Shaolin monk do. All the big sweeping kicks and sweeping arm movements and stuff like that. And then we do also a style called Xingyi, which means form, mind, and body, which is basically means creating intent. And the idea of that is emulating, again, different ways of opening up the body. It's actually an internal martial art. So there's an external and an internal martial art. External meaning force on force, and internal meaning redirection and redistribution. And so Xingyi is the most external internal martial art we do. So it's kind of like I liken it to like a sapling. So you can push a sapling down and out of the way, but it's going to snap back at you. So that's what Xingyi is like. So if you ever want to see like Xingyi, watch the Jet Li movie, The One, where he fights himself. The bad guy does Xingyi. It's a bunch of straight lines and just blowing people out of the water, which is what it is, what it's by. And then the good guy actually does Bagua, Baguazhang, which is 8 pillars martial arts. That was the palace guard for the emperor. this was their secret martial art. Not so secret anymore,
Yeah.
but of course. But the idea is to be able to fight 8 people at once.
Oh, that's sick.
Yeah, and it is. It's really cool, and there's constant movement, and it's very it's twisting and turning, and being able to hopefully not get hit, because you're moving all the time. If you're standing still, you're doing it wrong. Is the idea. And then we also do a couple different styles of Tai Chi, Yang style Tai Chi, which is the most celebrated, I guess, or practiced in the world, and then Chen style Tai Chi, which Yang style came from, and is mad that Yang took over. But so we do both styles, and one is very big and blocky, and easy to learn. The other one's very whippy and easy to take people out with. So they don't look like each other, even though they have the same frame.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of a weird, wacky. I'm saying the same technique movement, but I'm doing completely different things. And then we also do Wing Chun, which has been much more popular because of the Ip Man movies. So
that's fair.
Those are the 6 main martial arts we do, and then there's all the other exotic ones we do: Lion Fist, 8 Drunken Immortals, Eagle Claw, Mantis, Monkey. There's a bunch of different ones that are just kind of like, okay, this is kind of cool, but I can't imagine doing this for a whole fight.
Is it just like an energy level thing?
Well, there's it's kind of like, I imagine it more like the lightsaber styles,
mm-hmm.
where it's kind of like, oh, okay, here's Niman. There is no form for Niman.
Oh, okay, then yeah.
Right.
I see what you mean by that one. Yeah.
And you make it your own.
Yeah.
So,
all right.
So there's no like in our context, right? Shicho is the first lightsaber martial art form. You got to learn to crawl before you can walk, mm-hmm. sort of deal. So there are fully fledged out martial arts which have like 100 or more movements and forms and ideas, and then there's smaller versions of martial arts where it's just like, oh, that's just the same movement over and over.
Yeah, it's like the martial arts version of freeform jazz.
Yeah. So like, if you were to research my name, Alan Venable, and Drunken Fist Boxing, you'll find a video of that, and that's kind of like my my YouTube stardom is on that.
Look at this hotshot thinking he cool like this. All right, chill.
when you see that, it's like, oh yeah, I can see that. That's actually what got him into martial arts.
Nice.
And yeah,
but
that was like 17 years ago, that video. So I don't know how well it's aged.
We're gonna go with good. We're gonna go with really good and not look back.
It will be posted in the group.
Oh yeah, no, we're
before the night's through.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna sit here with my perception and attempt to roast it.
And just as a disclaimer, I did the form wrong, so you know.
Okay,
you won't be able to notice if you didn't know that.
You know what? Okay, that happens a lot. Like, side tangent. So how I got into lightsabers and stuff was actually I had a surprisingly good level of perception. I study anatomy because I am studying to become a nurse. So I understand how the body is supposed to move for the most part. Right. Anatomy, physiology. And so I was actually able to translate that into sabers, because I could look at someone and be like, oh, why aren't they doing this? Like, they'll have a much stronger foundation, or why aren't they lifting their ankle a little bit higher, because then they can create more pressure. And so Eric saw that and he was like, oh, get this girl a lightsaber. Like, let's go. But the difficult part was just knowing what to look for. Like, I could see things, but it was knowing what to look for. And so that alone has been a really interesting change. Like, it has changed a lot of things in my life, where we watch movies. We started rewatching The Legend of Korra. And actually, I appreciate it a lot more, because I'm like, oh, they're incorporating boxing into what used to be a very, Eastern level of.
Yeah, actually, that is a good, analogy for the different things that are in martial arts, especially in kung fu, because they actually got they motion captured
Yeah.
for the last Avatar, so the last Airbender, excuse me. So the last Airbender, they got I want to say his name is Sifu Lee, could be wrong. Sorry, Sifu, but he's a practitioner of all those martial arts in Florida, and they got him in there, and the showrunners actually were his students, and so he was teaching them all those things, and kind of interesting. They threw a bunch of stuff around, and in traditional Chinese martial arts, there's 5 elements and not 4,
Oh.
like in and the 5th element is wood. So just so you know, but they couldn't explain the Chinese way, so they just made their own fantasy world.
Yeah. I mean,
they did that.
It is a fantasy thing, but yeah, I did see that about Avatar: Last Airbender,
and then Korra, they just did the same
yeah.
thing. They actually threw in a bunch of cool training things that actually happen in our world. In that, like the scene with all the swinging doors and stuff, that's actually a Bagua thing, and you can kind of see it nowadays too, because I was on I think I was on Facebook and I saw an ad about this swinging arm, like, and this kid's like punching at the punching bag, hitting the arm and ducking and doing stuff. I was like, hey, I know that.
Yeah,
that's been around forever. It's not brand new. It's just padded now.
Yeah, I mean, it's.
I did it. There were no pads.
I mean, I thought the point of the wood was for conditioning, but okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's for learning faster.
Oh God.
Less forgiving.
I'm really happy with how my training's going, because it is taking a while, but that's because I looked at Eric. I'm like, we're in this for the long haul. Like, I want to be a battle master. He's like, okay, but this is gonna get hard, and I'm like, let's go.
Absolutely. Well, anything worth doing is not going to be easy.
Oh no, yeah, it's
an effort and energy, and if you can keep your focus, then you can achieve it.
Yes, and that's been really cool, and I want to get back to the small victories later on in the interview, because that actually sounds really interesting, and I want to delve into this. But back to your personal experiences. You said that you had to, for your black belt, do weapon sharp stuff.
Yes.
Tell me about the hitty stabbies.
So traditionally, there are 18 traditional Chinese weapons, and there are 8 bladed weapons. So single-handed or double-handed bladed weapons. So mainly swords, axes, that sort of thing. And then there are 8 pulled weapons. So anything that is, generally speaking, as tall or taller than you.
Okay.
Could have a blade. Doesn't necessarily have to.
So what were the 2 that you had experience in? Or do you have experience in like all of them? Because you're just extra apparently, and you can do everything. So
now I can. Back then, it basically broke down to what can I do and what can I teach? Because when I went for my first degree black belt, I was trying to become a teacher.
Mm-hmm.
So to be a teacher and a black belt, that meant I had to do almost twice as much. So when I did my my black belt, I did a form called Shaolin Wind Staff.
Ooh.
Which is basically a staff form that's done where you're spinning your staff so fast and turning and moving so fast that it sounds like a little tornado.
Oh, that's cool.
So that whoosh that you hear, so it's called wind staff, and that's what I did. And then I did a style of sword play called Chinese broadsword, or Tiger Tornado broadsword, because there are all sorts of Chinese broadswords. But Tiger Tornado broadsword, which is basically meant to be taught to somebody in about 10 days, and then have them go out on the field of battle and win. So the idea is to block all around you like a little tornado, and hit, and one hit, one kill, who's next, sort of thing, like a tiger.
Okay.
So Tiger broadsword and wind staff were my 2, and they're very similar forms, just in the skill set, but the applications are, of course, completely different. And then we actually did a couple of Southern styles as well. Those were my northern forms. Then we did a couple of Southern styles, which were more man-to-man versus style. So you would learn one part of the form, your partner would learn the other part of the form, and then you'd switch. So you would actually learn to fight each other one way, and then the other guy would take your part, and you would take his part, and you fight each other again. So you could see it from a different angle.
That's really cool. So when you went to your black belt, you had every intention of being a teacher. That's what you wanted to do.
Yes. That at that point in my life, I was like, well, I got to do it, because if I'm not going to do it the best of my ability, then who am I going to teach?
Yeah.
You know, I have no intention of being a mediocre teacher. So that was my goal.
That's pretty cool. And I feel you on that, because that's my goal as well. I really like teaching. And so, oof. But it's exciting because to have the ability to not only perform something, but to be able to teach other people is astonishing. It's one thing to be able to do it. It's absolutely another thing to teach somebody who has a different body mechanic than you, different anatomy, different physiology, different backgrounds, different bad hobbies or bad habits.
Or hobbies.
Yeah, hobbies and habits. It's really tricky. Like, it's very difficult. And I've only dipped my toe into teaching. And
yeah, my teacher said that if you could teach something 108 different ways, then you're a decent teacher.
Yeah.
So just one move, 108 different ways to 108 different people, then you've done okay.
Okay, well, we're not quite there yet, but you know what? In time.
Well, that's kind of one of the things that draws you back to the ranking system.
Mm-hmm.
So in our school, not only do you have your degree belt, right? So you have, first degree black belt, which is the culmination of you. Congratulations, you're now a student. That's kind of how it works. You spent 36 years learning how to learn.
Yeah.
And now the rest is to you. And every degree after that is, I've learned this thing as well. And then third degree, I've learned this, and this. Fourth degree, so on and so forth. And we not only have rank in that, but we also have position. So there's the two things, rank and position are always different, right? So you have rank, which is generally speaking your degree level or belt level. And then you have position, which is actually your title in the school. So in our lineage, in order to become a black belt, you actually have to complete the black belt test. But in order to be an instructor, you have to complete your black belt test and this and this and this and this.
That's really cool.
Yeah, so it's really neat the way my teachers have put it together, and it's fairly simple to see why they had as many students as they did, because they took all this esoteric stuff and put it into a little box that Americans can understand and kind of compartmentalize.
That's interesting. Because
otherwise you'd just be there and you'd be floating forever until your teacher says, "All right, congratulations, you're a black belt."
You're good. And you're like, wait, what?
Yeah, and that's traditionally how it was. And there's some schools that still do that. My Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu school that I was part of, basically belt advancements were surprises.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, cool. All right, thanks.
I think there's different interesting points into both of those, because actually San Diego Sabers is a lot like the previous example that you gave, where we have our ranks and then we have our positions.
Yeah.
So I joke about my level and my accomplishments, but one of the compliments that I'm very proud of is I got the title of Wanderer. And that, first of all, that just sounds really cool. Like, hi, I'm a wanderer. Don't mind me. But we have things like Battle Proctor. We have things like Wanderer. We have, oh my gosh, I just forgot. There's one for specifically Makashiists, and they're all in lore. Except I think Wanderer. I think Wanderer was kind of like a special thing, because it's basically someone who has knight tier qualities, but are not knight tier yet. So they have the ability to teach. They have the ability to take on a student. They have the abilities of a knight, but they are missing one or two aspects in order to fully complete their training. And
my understanding is that the Wanderer is the tree that has no roots.
Yes, that is me.
And that's really all it is that you're not. It's not about being on the council. It's not about doing that. It's to me, it sounds more like we're going to go into philosophy here. The explanation of the Tao. There is no explanation for the Tao. It just is. Once you start explaining it, it's no longer the Tao. It just is.
Yeah, and
I see what the wanderer position is that.
It kind of is, yeah, because you do things, and it's fun because all the knights and the battle master are like, all right, just do it. And I'm sitting here, I'm like, wait, what? You want me to just do it? And they're like, yeah, just like do it.
That's part of the lesson though, is your capabilities don't necessarily tell you what your boundaries are.
And that's really an interesting topic because that's what I struggled with for a long time. And that was part of my mental training because I was missing the physical aspect of it. I can fight well, just not consistently. And that's the difficulty. And I had some mental blocks to get past. And one of which I think would be interesting for people to hear, is I kept comparing myself to other fighters, saying, I want to be that fighter. I want to be like that fighter. I want to do that move that person does. When in reality, I had to figure out how I could use martial arts. And I'm sure that's something that you might have experienced, or one of your students.
Oh yeah, I mean, you heard me. I did all the techniques I thought were cool.
Yeah.
Not, that's the difference, right? And it's if you can go into any martial art, whether it be with lightsabers or with traditional swords, or heck, if you wanted to do Greco-Roman wrestling, there is a humbling process. It's not, you can't go in there thinking that you know everything. Otherwise, you'll get humbled quick.
Yeah.
Somebody that actually knows what they're doing. You wouldn't be in the class if you didn't want to learn. And if you are not getting what you want out of it, you got to talk to your teacher. That's kind of how it is.
And thankfully I didn't have too much of that problem. I knew exactly how I was. Okay, so for listeners, our group has started off and still has a lot of very, very skilled martial artists. People who have practiced in things for a long time and are really, really good at it. And then I came along and I knew nothing. I knew
I'm in the same boat.
Absolutely nothing, which is great because, they got to teach me from the ground up. But the downside is I kept looking at all of the people that were way above me saying, oh, if I could just be like them, if I could just be like Matthew or Dennis or Doug or things like that. And I realized that I was keeping myself low.
I really want to be like Doug.
What'd you say?
Don't
do you really want to be like Doug?
I mean, he's kind of awesome.
He's going to hear this. He's going to.
Oh, no. Yeah, I know. I'm gassing my boy up. Have you seen him fight though?
Oh yeah. He's beaten me multiple times.
That fresh AF mac and cheese style. Ooh, BB.
I think I fought Doug once when we did Intergalacticon, and that was a really close fight because he just has such a long reach.
Oh, and he's fast and he uses it, and that's what I'm talking about, specific anatomy and stuff like that. Because I'm like, oh, if I could just get a range like Doug, and I'm like, I need to learn how to fight like Marina.
Yeah.
You also have to grow 6 inches.
What if I just wear heels?
That's the hardest thing to teach people is because I can teach you technique all day long, but the drive and to actually want to get better from yourself instead of being like somebody else is very hard to teach.
Yeah.
You have to. For me, it was. I had to humble myself and go, okay, well, I obviously can't do that. So what can I do? But that took a while, for me to realize, oh, that was the smart thing to do, not the eventual thing to do,
Yeah.
And that's the hardest thing for, I don't know if it's culture or what, but, a lot of people are into the instant gratification.
Yeah.
Especially these days. If you wanted to learn Kung Fu nowadays, you can just go to YouTube and search it. Is it good Kung Fu? Who knows? Because there's nobody there in front of you telling you you're doing it wrong.
Yeah.
Or, hey, if you just moved your knee this way, it wouldn't hurt every time you did that. Or if you kept your eyes up, you wouldn't get hit in the head if you actually got into a real fight.
Yeah.
It's that, we call it direct transmission. So for me to teach my students directly, whether it's through Zoom or in the same classroom, I can do a lot more when I can see them than if I was, some video on YouTube.
Yeah. And they're
cool and they're good for inspiration, but besides that, you can't do it. It's like, can I learn Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu from a YouTube video? Kind of, but unless you're on the mat and, making somebody tap out, you don't know if you can actually do it.
Yeah. So you brought up kind of an interesting thing, and I know my questions might be kind of personal. I don't know. Because I want to get to know you as a martial artist. Sure. So the point that I was talking about, where you had to learn how to fight like yourself, yes. I feel like a lot of people get to that route through different means, and people find that block through different avenues. Mm-hmm. So, for example, for me, it was because I didn't think that I could be good enough to fight like them. So I wanted to fight like that. Like, I didn't think that anything that I could produce could be as good as the people that I was looking towards. But you mentioned that for you it was a humbling experience, yes. Where you had to lower yourself down and be like, okay, what can I do? And so that's super interesting, because that's a very different path from different, I guess, emotion or mindset.
Well,
mindset is
I was blessed by good teachers and good classmates, because we had teachers that cared about us enough to tell us, hey, you're doing that wrong. Mm-hmm. Or this, you wouldn't get blasted by this counterattack here. If you kept your elbow down, you wouldn't get kicked in the ribs, stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I had good classmates to remind me of those lessons, whether it be something happening to them as I was watching, or, happening to me and they went, hey, remember that one time? Mm-hmm. Or, you know what, he keeps on hitting you in the head, so duck next time. So hit, on the count of 3, duck, or whatever it is. And so we had a culture in our school of teachers, and then teachers or students that were going to become teachers. So that group kind of helped push me up to the point where I wanted to be as good or as, or better than those guys. Mm-hmm. And, some of us made it, some of us didn't. And it was really hard to go up in rank and in position and go, well, that guy does that better than me. Why am I, a higher belt than he is? Oh, well, he was deficient in this way. Oh, okay. Well, maybe I can make up for it. So I'm also I'm the youngest child in my family. Mm-hmm. So I took the same lessons from my home life, where I saw my sisters and elder siblings, get berated for stuff. And I remember, hey, don't do that. Same thing in martial arts. The things that you see, like you're talking about, being able to watch and have perception and everything like that. You can do the same thing with martial arts, right? That's why we love martial arts movies. We like seeing it, like, oh man, that's awesome. Can I do that?
Yeah.
Or how did they do that? And to be able to go, okay, well, if I did that, okay, my body even do that? I don't know. How would I be able to do that? We'd slow it down. We do the, frame by frame. You have to lift your knee at this point. You have to do this. You have to actually open up your chest, otherwise you won't stay in the air. Different things like that. And so I had basically a study group, and I had a group of people messing up just ahead of me that made me go, okay, that's how I don't do that. I get better by not doing that.
Mm-hmm.
And then also humbling myself when we went into sparring situations where I'm like, this one move, this one move, this one move. Oh, okay, you've countered it 3 times now. Okay, so I shouldn't do that one move. It's that sort of thing, which is one of the reasons I love swordplay,
Mm-hmm.
is because it depends on the day. Mm-hmm. That one move might not work for you today, but tomorrow you might win every fight with it. Just because your poise or your position was slightly better, or it's a game of inches anyway. So, I hold my rapier at this angle instead of this angle, and now I finally hit. So it's kind of those things. It's polishing the marble, releasing the form. I'm actually working on me in order to be better at being the best me.
Yeah,
like you said.
That's super cool, and yeah, that's a really difficult lesson, I think, for a few people to learn, and sometimes it takes a while to really like sink in what you're doing, because I didn't realize until, again, once I really figured that out, that I had warning signs and people like telling me like, hey, you know what, try this instead, like trying to guide me towards the right direction, but my brain was just so fixated on what I thought was cool and what I wanted to do. So what I wanted to do was be like Katie and Eric. Their Sarisu is gorgeous. They can create a full wall by just standing there. And I thought that was the most demoralizing, like absolute
meant to be.
Yeah, absolute like F you and everything you stand for, because no one feels good getting blocked out that badly. Like that's that's a thing. But then I realized like I really like playing defensively. That's more my thing. And it took me until just recently to realize like I have so many other strengths that I'm not using.
Absolutely.
And I'm not utilizing them at all. And that was a real like interesting apocalypse, like epiphany moment where you're like, oh, I've been training wrong. Like I've been training well and the moves were well, but I've not been using my body, myself, like the things that I have as an advantage. Like Eric.
Sure.
I have.
And that's why we have numbered forms.
Yeah.
Why we have a foundation, and then on that foundation, your house will look different than my house. It's just how it goes.
Yeah.
So for myself, I love Sarisu. I just can't do it because I get impatient in a fight. I have a decent understanding of it, and I can do it, and I have the endurance to pull off like a kata with it. But if you watch any of my fights, it's this wacky like Ataru hybrid it's like Makashi and Ataru together. See if this works. See if this works.
Yeah.
How about this one? And that's kind of how it is. And that's in itself, like when you actually do, sparring and fighting, that's really when you express yourself in your own personality. And so for me, that's my personality. I'm just like, oh man, I love doing this. So I want to see what happens if you do this, or if I do this, what do you do? Okay, that's awesome. Okay. And you start to learn and do that. And that's kind of, it's always fun to win, but it's more fun to learn for me.
Yes. I feel you.
You can see that in the, I guess, playfulness of my fights when you watch them.
And that's to bring back something, that you talked about first, where you're like, I was blessed to have people that were better than me fighting me all the time. And I feel the same way. Like I have a strong mentality that I would rather be the worst of the best than the best of the worst.
Oh, that's amazing. That's the best place to be.
Yeah.
I never be the smartest person in the room.
Oh yeah. No.
That means I'm in the wrong room.
So that's been really fun. And though it was really difficult to be someone that has had no training and deal with people that have had tons of training at the same time, it's like, no, this is where I want to be. Like this room is fine. And losing a fight, I don't think I've had much of an issue with. The only time that I've felt badly about losing a fight is when I know I could have done better, and
Sure.
and it was more I lost against myself.
Well,
Yeah, and that's the game. That you just hit the nail on the head. Like, if you lose, learn from it.
yeah, that's my mentality is I never lose because I'm always learning. So
Right.
I either win, which is usually not often, but when at least if I fight and I do my best, I've learned something.
Right.
So I come out victorious. It just
Well,
doesn't make it onto the scoreboard.
Right, and it's easy to say because we're playing with lightsabers and we're getting hit by polycarbonate blades.
Yeah.
And we're very safe about
Oh,
about that.
incredibly.
Yeah, but I mean, in a street fight or an actual time of self-defense, then yeah, it gets a little rough to think that way.
Yeah.
But I have told probably thousands of students this. In order to not get punched in the face, live a life where people don't want to punch you in the face.
Exactly.
You know, that one took me a while to learn. I'm not gonna lie. That one, yeah. I had.
Now, if it does, they'll know how to defend yourself. That's kind of how it works.
Yeah.
You know.
I got the inspiration to learn how to defend myself by living a life where people wanted to punch me in the face.
Yeah.
And then I realized like that's not ideal. That's not where we're at right now.
I mean, I hope not. It's
Yeah.
I think it's also part of growing up, right? To be able to realize what somebody's going through, be able to use your powers of perception and have the empathic ability to go, oh, you know what? That person might be having a bad day. I don't want to mess with them.
Yeah. No, I feel you on that one.
That's part of maturity, I hear.
So I hear. So I've been told.
Yeah.
But
we've been in this pandemic void for 800 years now. So
yeah.
I don't. I miss like being in the same room with people. So I'm not sure if it's being communicated through body language through talking head show.
Yeah, talking head show. Hey, we're good heads. We're fantastic heads.
I didn't say that we weren't.
So we've been talking a lot about teaching in school and mentality, which is probably one of my favorite parts of this whole realm is the learning, it's funny how sometimes the weapon can take a second hand to what you're actually doing, because the learning, the teaching, and everything, it's so fun. And if you are taking up a martial art of any kind, and you're just in it for the being the badass of being the kung fu wichita levels of dude, then you're really missing out on, in my opinion, like the point and purpose of a lot of this stuff.
Right.
So to dive more into the school aspect of everything, what we haven't really talked about is how you started your school. Phoenix Saber Academy. How did that rise?
I had an idea right around, I want to say 5 to 6 years ago, to do a seminar. And I wanted it to just be different, because traditional martial arts can sometimes be stuffy, so if I say, hey, we're going to do this traditional martial arts thing, then a lot of people kind of get taken aback and like, I don't know. But if I want to get people excited, I have to make it something new and exciting, right? Mm-hmm. So I decided to do a lightsaber seminar. And all of a sudden I had people calling me, not even in my school, about it.
Yeah.
So, okay, maybe I have something here, and I have the equipment to actually do it, because a long time ago I learned a Japanese martial art called Toyama-Ryu, which is basically a one of the few leftover samurai schools, in Japan.
Mm-hmm.
They basically had all the schools agreed on, these are the cuts. This is what we do. And the gentleman that took it from Japan and brought it back to the States lived in town, and he came to our school and he started a class, and I learned how to be, a samurai. And then from there, we actually got our gear. So, big shout out to Action Flex. They're the people that make our, I guess people call them buffers, but they're padded weapons. They're meant to be, swung by grown men at full strength, full speed, and not hurt.
I can attest to these. They are so much fun.
They're the best.
Dear God, the levels of childhood debauchery that comes out whenever you hand one of our guys a boffer.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Okay.
So the padded sabers really made it so that we could do it without too much gear.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the key. It was like I could put on a helmet, I could put on gloves, I could put this in my hand, and I could do it. I could go full speed, full contact, first day out.
Yeah.
And that stuck in my head. And because it was a very simple form, it's like minutes to learn, years to master sort of form.
Mm-hmm.
I kept with it. And then 10 years after that class was over, I actually got in touch with my old teacher, and he was like, "Yeah, I'm still in town. Yeah, I'm still teaching it. Come over to my house. We can get a bunch of them for you." I was like, "Great." So I bought, I don't know, something like 50 to 100 of them, and of these things. I was like, I want to teach kids, so I don't want them so big. And he's like, "Oh, great. I'll just do this. I'll cut the costs for you. I'll cut them down so kids can use them." And so he basically made a special thing for me, and I carried around this big duffel bag full of them and went from place to place, tournament to tournament, con to con, with them, and tried to establish a base to do it. And we went through the public library system here. We went through a couple of different conventions, and we had hundreds of kids within a weekend. So we actually churned a bunch of wannabe swordsmen
Mm-hmm.
into hopefully fans of martial arts for life, using this very simple wash down sheet show that I created. But it's just the basics of swordplay. It's not mine, it's everybody's. So that's how my school started, just teaching kids. And then their parents started slowly raising their hands, going, "Can I do it too?" So we started doing that, and I invited a couple people to do it. I joined a couple of the groups out here, and realized that there's just mainly choreography or saber games, as they like to call it, things where they basically do capture the flag and stuff, but with lightsaber duels.
Oh, that does sound kind of fun, though. I like our martial arts thing, but capture the flag with lightsabers sounds amazing.
It's fun, and I can see why the college kids do it.
We'll put it on the calendar.
Yeah, the reason why I think it's fun is I'm picturing all of our amazing martial artists like Kevin, Jason, Matthew, all the fucking weirdos, just taking that. I'm imagining Shaolin soccer, but mixed martial arts lightsaber tag.
Yeah. Basically, it was an education in what was out there, and I realized that most of them did not really do martial arts in the capacity that I did, and so when I learned that, I was like, well, maybe it's just because they're doing choreography, or they do it, but there's not a single person here that's actually running a school. Okay, well, I'll just kind of hang out and just be part of the group. And then it started to be a thing where people kept on asking me stuff and trying to get advice and how can I do this? And I was like, okay, I guess I'll have to make my own thing now. So after that, we actually put together a choreography show.
Okay.
Which also you can also find on YouTube. It actually, that group exploded because of drama. And so I was like, all right, well, I'm going to take my stuff and make my own thing. And so I did that. And then I slowly realized after going through a summer of training everybody and getting there and being the one guy with the vision that it was just exhausting. So
Yeah.
I had the academy and I had this group and it was great. It was fun. I'm glad I did it, but I would not do it again.
It was a lot.
Yeah. But in doing that, it got me to meet all of you. And I blame Nick Richardson for this.
Yeah. Screw you, Nick.
We blame Nick for a lot of things.
We do. We should hit him in the shins repeatedly.
Well, part of it mainly is because I ran a tournament with the boppers, and to actually just show off the equipment and actually give everybody like an experience. And Nick actually showed up to one of those tournaments, and he gave me his card, and he was like, "I'm gonna find you. I'm gonna invite you to my tournament." I'm like, "Great!" And that's when I met all of you. Was at his tournament. So.
Well, at least Nick's good for something. So
he did one thing right.
I'm just why do we show him so much? I love you, Nick. You're fine. You're fine.
He's the best. He's
like our little brother, right?
That's pretty much it. Yeah.
Send on him like a bunch of Vikings.
Only we're allowed to make fun of Nick.
Yeah, exactly. So, but that's it. And he's an amazing fighter. Even though I keep on joking that I hit him in the shin a lot, it's because that's where he wants me to hit him.
He's really into shins. He has a shitting kink, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, he'll meet you for the first time and say, "Hey, I mean, my legs are my weakest spots, so aim for those." Which means basically he's basically telling you, "Hey, I need work here. Can you help me work with this?"
Yeah,
so,
and we joke a lot, but he is a very good. He's a very good fighter. He's a really good learner. He's not above saying, okay, I need to work on this. And he's a lot of fun. He's also a goofy fighter like yourself. And so it's highly entertaining to watch him.
Hey, he won a tournament wearing a penguin onesie. So that's how.
Yeah. Penguin Saber Academy. Look them up. They're super cool people. They're absolutely not porgs, even though they are porgs. Fight me.
And we'll be interviewing him soon in this series as well.
Yeah, no, it's gonna be really cool. Feel free to tell him all the smack that I talked. And in one of our other affiliates, Code will tell you that the reason why I'm perfect for I have a bad feeling and not necessarily for adult conversations and interviews is that I talk so much smack. I know I'm going to lose. If we get together and I get into that ring, I know I'm going to lose, but I'm still going to trash talk. But at least I'm going to know that I'm going to lose. I'm not sitting here thinking, oh, I'm totally going to win a kick. And then down, I'm like, yeah, I'm just here to make you annoyed and hurt. So free game.
Your Don Mock is very, very good.
Yeah. It's just the follow-up.
The follow-up of Don Mock. However,
the being able to use it properly, not great. The negging though, 10 out of 10. See, what you do is you find something anatomy. See, words are good.
Words are hard.
You find something about their anatomy that looks even slightly weak in a martial arts setting, and then you just rip into that. You're like, wow, you got skinny legs, and they're like, hey now, and then you fight them. Or you say like an offhand comment saying like, "That's amazing that you can generate such power out of such skinny legs," and then
Right.
go to the ring.
I feel like Doug's ears are burning right now.
Probably, yeah. But no, that's so the schools, like that's how we met, and that's 10 out of 10. Like super glad that we met everyone.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
I don't think I'd be sane if not for you guys, so that's good. Like
yeah, boy.
this has given me like so much out of our relationship with SMAF and with each other. I'm sure like when we went drinking that one night, I've probably sacrificed a bunch of brain cells.
Oh, so
as
worth
well.
it. The karaoke, oof.
Yeah, karaoke. I mean, there's talk of port lights and wackiness there.
10 out of 10.
So,
yeah, that's why I started this this interview with a drink, because most of our out of armor antics, let's say, have involved either karaoke, porgs lights, or some kind of scotch.
I mean, doesn't sound like a bad time to me.
No, it's fantastic. So we talked a lot about how to sort of deviate back on topic, because we should eventually do that.
You on topic. Nice.
Yeah, I know, right? Got it. Hosting skills, 10 out of 10. We did talk a lot about translating martial arts into sabers, and how in different ways you've taken the experiences that you've had in martial arts and translated it to sabers. What are some of the difficulties, though, that you found translating the martial arts that you've learned into sabers? Because the reason I ask this is Eric, who is our battle master, has a lot of knowledge about a lot of different martial arts and experience in quite a few of them as well. And the difficult part is things like there's no edge. There is, everything's a target. There's no guards. There's nothing. So certain things had to be altered, and things were difficult for him, and he's explained that to me. But I want to know from you, what was the difficulties like you had in combining the two?
So I came from it from a form standpoint. So in traditional martial arts, you have katas or forms or sequences of movements that you learn from beginning to end, and that is that weapon's idea, right? So in Eastern martial arts, that's how they compartmentalize. They're like, here's all the ideas of this weapon.
Mm-hmm.
And, most of the time it's done as a way to remember the ideas, instead of going, oh yeah, there's this technique, and oh, have you learned about this? Which is a little bit more like the HEMA, the historical European martial arts ideas, like it works all the time. Here's another technique that works all the time. Here's another technique that works all the time. Instead of here's the idea of the weapon, it's like just do this 1,000 times.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of out there, and there's books and manuals and stuff like that. But first of all, we have a round blade, right?
Yes.
And even when you're talking dark saber, right, it's still that blade you can't touch. So a lot of things like half sorting is gone. There's no pressing. There's no pressing techniques. There's no resting the blade on your shoulder in order to look like you're not actually fighting. There's no in safe saber martial arts. There's no hilt shots, and things like that.
Pommel strikes or
there's no pommel strikes. There's no binding.
Yeah.
Or grabbing your opponent's sword because it's not sharp, and hitting them while you control their sword. So there's a lot of stuff that you can't do if you think of the weapon as a lightsaber. If you think of the weapon as a lightsaber, there's a ton of stuff you can do, though, that replaces that. So the things that have been taken away are replaced with other things that could be just as cool and actually a little bit more interesting, because now you're looking at mixing different weapons instead of being limited to a single weapon. So the cool thing for me about a lightsaber is it can be anything,
Mm-hmm.
right? So when you look at a lightsaber, I can fight with it like it's a katana. I can fight with it like it's a rapier. I can fight with it like it's a foil. I can fight with it like it's falchion. I can fight all sorts of different ways, and it makes sense. It still works.
Yeah.
However, because of the angle of the hilt, or maybe the length of the hilt, or the length of the blade, I'm still limiting myself. So it's this weird, like we have to find a good medium for me, and then a good medium for you, and a good medium for the next person, for them to feel comfortable with that weapon as the weapon they want to move as.
Mm-hmm.
So studying the other weapons gets you an idea. So if I'm thinking about the Tiger Tornado broadsword, that weapon actually has one edge and one ridge. The ridge is put against your body so that you can actually block with it and actually have your body behind it instead of just your wrist, and it goes all the way around my body, actually hugs my body, and I use the turning of my waist in order to strike, in order to create, the quick counter attack. Now, with a lightsaber, one, you chopped off your own arm, this way. Oh, you cut off a couple layers of your skin, and now you hit the guy.
Yeah.
So if you that way, not very practical. Okay, so how do I change that? I can still use the same motion, but it just has to be a bigger motion and not touch my body. Or I can press against a longer hilt instead of the blade. So there's different things and different techniques you can use and explain away and kind of say, okay, well that's kind of cool and it looks really neat, but it won't work with a lightsaber.
Yeah.
Although this will work with a lightsaber, where most things are there. A lot of martial arts talk about the false edge
Mm-hmm.
and the true edge, right? Whereas one side would be really sharp and the other side would be slightly blunted so that you could block with that side more. Or if I held my hand up like this, or if I held my hand there, the false edge and true edge would be different, whatever. So there is no false edge. It's all true edge with a lightsaber. And like you said, there's no quillions, there's no pommel, there's or no blood cup or basket hilt, on it.
Or Suba or anything.
Yeah, or anything that protects your hands. Traditionally, I mean, now we see crossguard sabers, we see all sorts of stuff like that. But when we're looking at movement, okay, now I have to take some of this other hilt movement or this hand movement and actually move my hand and not be fixed upon this one stance or technique.
Mm-hmm.
I have to keep moving in order for my hand not to get hit or my hilt not to get hit. So if we look at it that way, the difficulties in translating into lightsaber actually become opportunities to train other things. And that's kind of how I see it. So instead of making rule sets to where hilt shots don't count or Suba shots don't count, let's use that as an opportunity to, okay, well, if that's not going to work, right? Because canonically speaking, we've seen so many lightsaber hilts get destroyed.
Yeah.
Then let's try a different tack, instead of just saying, nope, that doesn't exist,
Yeah.
please guys, sort of deal. Let's work within that frame and say, okay, well, what would you do against that if that was indeed the case?
Yeah, and it's been cool to see how you translate things and how Eric translates things, because it's translated very similarly, where there are a lot of opportunities to using a lightsaber in certain martial arts, but you do sacrifice some things, but you gain some things, so it kind of becomes its own form, which is very, very cool. And I think
it is the MMA of swordplay. Like I said, you can use the same lightsaber and fight with 3 different styles of sword. Whereas, like if you were to hold the different swords, like a cavalry saber, be really hard to fence with.
Yeah.
Not that you do a lot of slashing techniques, but traditionally speaking, it's not meant to pierce.
Mm-hmm.
Even though there is a sharp tip on it, it's possible, but it's just not ideal.
And I think the cool thing that I don't necessarily think is talked enough about weapon-based play, especially sword play, is that swords are a great equalizer.
Oh, yeah.
If you are a person that is not very muscular or not as tall or not as strong, the sword will always be an equalizer. And
Oh, yes. Any weapon, really.
and it's fantastic because where someone is, maybe they're really big and thick and strong, and they use their saber to their advantage, and they use a lot of power strikes, and they really good at just blocking and not blocking, but breaking guards and doing all this different stuff. Well, if you're smaller and petite and you usually have an advantage of speed. You can usually get in and out of someone's range a lot faster. It's about finding, it's back to that original conversation of it's about finding what your strengths are and making that your thing to counter other people. It's like an amazing game of chess where you take different forms and different abilities and stats and experiences, and it's just been really fun.
There are so many variables in any fight, right? But just because you're faster doesn't mean that you'll hit better, you know. So it's kind of one of those trade-offs.
Yeah.
When we talk about the realm of lightsaber, fights end at the first hit. You know, they get hit. You could get hit a couple of times, you know, in the case of people's arms getting taken out and stuff. But traditionally speaking, the fight's over once a lightsaber hits, right? So that part of it is what makes it much more of a sport to me, and more about the honesty of the situation.
Yeah.
Instead of, yeah, I hit you, but my hit was better. No, you got hit. Fight's over.
Yeah.
That's kind of how Olympic fencing is as well, and which is kind of cool. But there are some things to say, like different weapons have different rule sets, right? In HEMA, there's a lot of stuff where, yeah, you hit me first, but I lopped off your head, and that I lost a hand. I win that one.
Yeah.
Great.
Or there's a difference where one person hit harder than your strike, so they think, okay, well, would your strike have penetrated his armor? Probably not. We're gonna give it. Yeah, there's what's the word I'm looking for? I can't figure the word, but semantics is the closest thing I can think of.
Sure. Yeah, everybody has their own way of looking at their weapon. When we talk about in the realm of lightsaber martial arts, though, we try to think of it as a lightsaber, and even though it's a fictional weapon right now, we are looking at it as part of like what actually happens. What did we see? What have we actually seen happen if you get hit in the hilt?
Yeah.
Canonically, lightsaber hilt explodes, or you got to toss it, right? It gets destroyed. So he has a lightsaber and you don't,
Yeah.
and that's really what happens in the movies too, right? And then, getting hit in the hand, the leg, anywhere ends the fight, immediately.
Yeah.
It's not that they don't want to keep fighting. It's just, no, the fight's over. So that's where the point system comes in. And that's part of what's really fun for me is training on both levels. So I can train real world martial arts where I'm still pretending that I'm trying to kill somebody. And then that's another thing you have to remember. Like, if you're training to do this and you think it's better, you're still pretending.
Yeah.
So hopefully you're pretending.
Yeah.
You're not actually
please pretend.
Yeah. Otherwise, somebody has some explaining to do. Oof. But the sport versus the realism, sometimes people can't shut it off, can't flip the switch.
Yeah.
So, like, the real sword play and all that stuff is really cool. I love it. I do it. It's great. However, very expensive to get into. Not that lightsabers are the cheapest thing in the world, but when the accessibility has been as good as it has been for the past 5 years, I don't see why not.
Yeah. And like you said, like the sport of it makes it more entertaining because I think we discussed this, where the most realistic sword lightsaber fight we've ever seen in Star Wars canon was in Rebels, and that was Maul versus Obi-Wan, and it was just that it was one move, like
and that's how it would be, right?
That's no fun if that was a tournament where you're like, all right, who gets the first shot right now? Go.
Yeah.
Like, oh,
well,
man.
that's the thing, right? Is if you're in a real life situation, the person that is the quickest to be the most violent wins. Doesn't matter their skill level, right? The person that is willing to be the most violent and is the quickest to do it wins. Unfortunately, right? It doesn't matter how many push-ups and pull-ups you do. You get hit by a car. There's not. We talk about the sword being a great equalizer. Weapons are a great equalizer.
Yeah.
You're no longer in a position where you're trying to play fisticuffs, and whoever put more time in the boxing ring wins. It's like, no, I hit you, I win. Done.
Yeah. So that's been really interesting. But speaking of fights, let's wrap this up with a fun one.
Okay.
In your opinion, what is the best saber fight you've ever had?
Best saber fight I've ever had. I have a favorite, and I have a best, I guess.
Why not? Let's do both, because after this, it's going to be your worst. So let's get two happy things and then one trash. Let's go.
So, my favorite saber fight was actually both of these were at a Penguin tournament. So
I think I know which one you're going to say, because it's one of my favorites, at least. But now I'm curious.
So the backstory is basically it was me as the last Filipino standing, and the rest of my Filipino brethren that were in the tournament sat in my corner, hoods up, like a weird Filipino Jedi Council druid circle.
Yeah,
the photo of that is amazing, by the way.
So gold. Oh my god.
I fought for the championship, which was fun in itself, but also every time I went back to the corner, having the three of them just yelling at me or whispering or yell whispering what to do next was just like, to me, that just made my heart soar, because I was just like, yeah, awesome, this is so fucking cool.
Yeah.
And then watching it later, I was like, oh yeah, that's when he told me that. That's when he told me that. And just to watch that fight and experience that fight, that was my favorite, because it was just so much fun. My best fight, though, I want to say was actually another Penguin tournament when I got to fight Matthew for the gold medal, and it was just us there, and I guess it was me defending my championship. I'm not sure, but we decided at the beginning that this was not a serious fight. We are going to have fun. We're going to throw some stylistic moves in there, and whoever wins. And we didn't care who won. We just fought for the sake of fighting. And that had a couple of my favorite moments in it, because we were just literally back and forth in that fight. And there's a point where we were 9-9, and I just decided, in my heart, I was just like, well, I don't want to win this fight. I want Matthew to win. So I took off my helmet and I just conceded the point to him, and he didn't know what was going on. I was like, oh no, you guys should win this. In honor for our dear departed friend Steve, San Diego should take this tournament. And he's like, okay, cool. And then I said, I do want one more point though.
Yeah.
Can we just do one point?
We're gonna play this one out, but also
yeah, you win. I just want one more point. He's like, okay. And we squared off again. Matthew had already won, and I just put put myself with the help of Marina's awesome battle cape in an Iaido stance so you couldn't see where my saber was, and then and you can watch it in slow motion. We did a fight review on it on the Saber Martial Arts channel, and it literally is a split second. He would have blocked that 9 times out of 10, but I just had that one that got right in and hit him across the eyes, and for that. And it was fun because everybody jumped out of their seat and just,
Yeah.
it was basically one of those great moments. We hugged, we had a whole bunch of love for each other and the whole crowd, and then it was done. It was just one of those things that just was an incredible moment, and I hope that we get a chance to do it again eventually.
Yeah, eventually.
And then my worst fight?
Yeah, your worst. Lay it on me.
Okay, so my worst fight was at a TSL tournament.
Mm-hmm.
And background on this one is that it was in Vegas, and I bought the buffet of buffets.
Oh, no.
Which meant I went and sampled just about every buffet on the strip.
Oh, no. No.
I showed up on a Sunday morning, groggy and way too full.
Yeah.
And I was like, all right, here we go.
Ooh. Ooh.
And I fought. I was slow. I was bloated. I was not having a great time. I fought, and it was fun. And kudos to that guy for winning. But it was rough. And then I got into another tournament that same day, I think, and it was an interesting scoring system that they used, because there was, I guess, style points. I'm not sure how you do that, but
okay.
I need to get into a tournament that has style points, because that might be the only way I can win.
Well, it was funny because my opponent was like, I don't know why they're scoring me that way. I'm like, neither do I. I guess I just have to hit you more.
Yeah.
And that was me. Tied with that horrible performance to me was not one fight, but an experience. Also in Vegas for some reason. And that was basically not understanding that I was supposed to blow people out, like 0 to, however many points it was to win, in order to get ranking into a tournament. I thought everybody was in the tournament. And I was having fun, and I was like, I don't want to discourage anybody. You drove all the way to Vegas, or some of you flew all the way to Vegas and paid hundreds of dollars for a room. So to get just destroyed on your first fight shouldn't be, a thing. So all of my fights were like neck and neck, because I was like, come on, hit me, and apparently that's not what you were supposed to do in that tournament.
Oof.
Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, that happens. There's sometimes where you show up to a tournament and you realized, oh, I don't have a guaranteed spot in the tournament, because that's happened to us a couple times where we sign up for a tournament. We say, all right, let's go to the tournament. And they're like, all right, we're going to do the pool bouts, and only 20 people are going to be in the tournament. You're sitting there like, what? I signed up for a tournament.
Yeah.
I thought I was going to a so it's like a mini pre-tournament before the
tournament? It's the tournament before the tournament. And for me it's if you go in knowing that, great. But if you don't go in knowing that, that's when you get that experience, that almost like a bait and switch.
Yeah, no, that has happened to us before too, where we think pool bouts are happening, and then halfway through the pool bouts, someone's off being a sentinel, and then they realize, they come back and they're like, hey guys, this isn't pool bouts. This is the tournament. This is it. So start fighting better. And it messed up a couple people, but it's not too bad. But I have a quick one, because my favorite fight from you is also with your Filipino brother Matthew, and it was again at a Penguins tournament, and it was in the pool bouts where you guys were off in the corner.
Yes. Okay.
Total. Are we allowed to cuss? Is this a cussing?
We've let it go a little bit, but we're supposed to minimize that if we can.
Okay, well, you guys were being children, absolute children in the corner.
Yes.
I was gonna say a
It's always
word, but
fun to watch two people giggling at each other, waving swords.
oh my gosh! And then I would just hear Matthew scream, and I look over, and he's just like jumped. He jumped several feet into the air, and like, oh no, wait, no, it was you. You jumped in the air, and he's just screaming because he's like, he's in the air. Like, I don't know how to deal with this. It's basically all of the mental process that you usually keep to yourself. You're like, stay calm, stay cool. We're in the fight. Yeah. You guys just dropped that barrier and you wore your expressions just right on your sleeve. Just held it.
Well, that's the beauty of fighting with your friends, is you get to be more of yourself.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not the hardcore, I have to win sort of guy. I mean, I can be, but I don't like that person.
You hardly ever. I don't think I've seen you fight for real ever. Like,
that's usually because I live a life where people don't want to punch me in the face. So
it's a good life.
That's kind of how it works. I can understand where people are coming from, and hey, you know what? You must be having a bad day. How can I help?
Yeah.
Instead of, well, you're wrong, and you should die in a fire. I don't have that attitude. So.
That's probably for the best. However, I do have some friends like that, and I like being around them for some reason. I think that's how, by proxy, I end up is being next to the guy that is into the but
well, eventually that we call it low vibration. Eventually, that low vibration kind of makes you want to go for a higher one. You're just like, you know what? Last time you did that, you ducked and I got hit. So I'm gonna go ahead and,
take this one.
Yeah, the good book says to turn the other cheek, but after that,
everybody gets one.
Exactly.
But that's pretty cool. But yeah, it sounds like those matches were. I remember being there for those. They were really, really highly entertaining.
And that's part of it. I think that most people don't get, because you can be too competitive on these things.
Yes.
But if you look down and you realize you're holding a friggin' lightsaber, come on.
Yeah. And usually the weird part is the people that are really, really competitive have a tendency to just burn out, because in fact, in most martial arts, the more competitive you are, the faster I usually see burnout, because you're constantly trying to be the best, and you won't always be the best. Like, that's just not a possibility. And so then they're just like, well, I'm not the best, flip a table, I'm out.
Well, when you keep on hearing there's no fear at this dojo, then eventually your mind does get a little bit warped.
So it's a difficult mentality to have. I like to have fun and teach, and teaching's my main thing, and that's pretty much the thing I'm most serious about,
right? Because
I really don't want to teach people something wrong and then they get messed up, and I'm like, ooh, that was me. That was me.
That again is the separation between sport and reality.
Yeah.
Right. Martial arts, out there, and that, there's people that teach, how to use a seatbelt as a weapon, and things like that. But my reaction to that is always like, why is somebody attacking you while you're in your car?
Yeah.
Why did you not find a better way to do that? You saw the train coming. Why are you still standing on the tracks?
Yeah.
That's kind of the mentality that we come from my school, thankfully. And there are times where, sometimes you're just gonna have to choke somebody out, and that's okay. Hopefully it's not something you do every day.
Sometimes you just gotta choke someone out.
That is the quote of the night.
Can we put that on a T-shirt with the Phoenix logo?
I mean, probably. Well, it depends on your line of work, right? If you're a bouncer at a club, then you're going to have to, learn how to do this particular technique or whatever. But if you're the plumber, or you're the landscaper guy, chances are you have better options than, square up with somebody. if you're a professional fighter, then absolutely go for it, but if you are talking about lightsaber fighting, then look down, realize you have a toy in your hand, essentially, and that you're applying real world martial arts with your toy and having the time of your life.
Yeah. And sometimes it can teach you really good lessons that are real life lessons, which I didn't expect to happen. I had the opposite thing where I went into this as a joke. I'm like, yo, you girls about to play with some plastic lightsabers. Like, man, this is gonna be fun. And then I had a complete changing of the way that I think and feel, and I became a much better person and a much calmer person. I was like, hey, I was just here to play with sabers. How did I become a better person? I didn't sign up for this.
Well, any martial art, I mean, I recommend it for everybody, just to take, some time and do any art, right? So the reason we call it Kung Fu is because Kung Fu literally translates into great skill. It's the symbol for time and the symbol for energy. Enough time and energy, you have great skill in anything, right? Rule of 10,000. If you do something 10 times, you can remember you did it. If you did it 100 times, then you've at least done it right once. If you've done it 1,000 times, then you have a good understanding of what you're doing. If you do it 10,000 times, you don't even have to think anymore. It just happens. And that's the essence of what we teach is, yes, it is tedious. Yes, it does take time. Yes, it does take energy. But in the end, when you have these techniques to go to, wherever they may be, whatever form it is, then you have a good basis, a good foundation on how to, apply it in other aspects of your life. So the breathing, the endurance, the physical endurance, the mental training, all that stuff, you can apply in other places. You just have to think of it abstractly.
Yeah. And you take from it what you give to it,
Yes, you will only find what you're looking for. And if you fight for your limitations, your reward is you get to keep them.
Wow.
That was dope.
Yeah.
Wow, he's extra. Like, why he's got to be like this? Damn.
Well, that's why they call me a master instructor.
Yeah, it's almost like he's had a lot of training and stuff.
I've had a lot of fortune cookies.
Ooh, they actually are kind of tasty, not gonna lie. Well, on that note, I think that was a really good way to end it. This was super fun, really great talking to you. And yeah, we plan on doing this again. I think that you are interviewing the next person.
Yeah, I think I have the first confirmation from Nick, actually.
Nice.
Nick Richardson.
I look forward to hearing that one.
Yeah, we're gonna see what we can do about that.
Before we completely wrap up, let's go ahead and give a little bit of a plug for SMAF so that we can continue to grow SMAF, because right now because we're kind of in a standstill, SMAF's kind of in a standstill, but this is an opportunity to kind of give SMAF a 30-second spiel.
Oh, sure. The Saber Martial Arts Foundation is a nonprofit organization meant to help in the research and development of saber martial arts. So if you have a school or a group of people that are looking for a school, then we are a great network and tool to have in order to find your saber teacher or find other saber enthusiasts and be able to go to these tournaments that we were talking about. And you will see there is a huge culture of people involved and into saber martial arts in general, not only from other organizations that you might be able to do, but other schools as well, people that teach the actual martial arts. So any sort of weapons training, even if it's zero weapons training, is welcome. And then you can kind of learn from there. You can start from there, and you can actually see the different versions or different flavors of saber martial arts schools in the foundation as well. So sabermartialarts.life is the webpage. Go see it. It's still, we're adding to it every day. So
yeah. And then we have the San Diego Sabers info.
All right, so we can be found online at sandiegosabers.life. kind of like the dark life concept. Email. You can either email me directly if it's directly concerning the podcast. It's andre.sdspodcast@gmail or sanDiegoSaber@gmail.com. Most of our social media is San Diego Sabers. If you look up in Google, and you put San Diego Sabers in there and you see a hockey team, that's not us. We happen to be in our town have a minor league hockey team that has the same name. So if you see hockey players, not us. You see people running around with lightsabers, that's us. But we're on Instagram, we're on Twitter, we're on all the social medias. But yeah, if you have any questions, send me an email. I'll hook you up with what I know, or get you in touch with Alan or the podcast team. But we love to hear from you.
Yeah. And then
if you're in Arizona, phoenixsaber.com.
Yeah, simple enough. And then to end this, because it's me and I have to trash talk because that's what I do as a person. Alan, we still have never fought. In all the times that we've gotten together, we've never fought. So
that's true. We've just exchanged barbs across the room.
Yeah,
with our
it's
words.
usually chirping and quips. So I will say to you, sir, fight me. You trash, you whack. Just because you think you can say some kung fu quotes and probably kill me with a pencil doesn't mean you're cool. You think you're cool, but you're not.
So, I mean, you're absolutely right, and I'm right behind you. No,
dude, if you're behind me, I'd be like, snap my neck. I don't even care. Like, that was so cool. Like, that would be one of those moments, and I'm sure we've had them, where a move was too cool that you're like, just take me now. Like, I'm good with
this. This is how I go out.
Yeah.
This is a great story. Bye.
Bye. So with that, I have been your host, Marina, and we have Alan. Bye.
And I'm Andre. Bye.
It's like a thing, like an Alan, like the podcast. You know what? It's fine. It's fine. Everything's fine. This was a boring conversation anyway.
Until next time, remember, always keep your blades up, don't lose your tip, and may the Force be with you.
San Diego Sabers Radio Podcast. Star Wars. The Star Wars logo, music, characters, and other Star Wars items are the property of Lucasfilm Limited or their respective trademark and copyright holders. All original content is property of San Diego Sabers, copyright 2020. May the Force be with you.